In this video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 lighting setups at 3 different price points. So we're going to start with a lighting setup that can cost you as little as nothing at all, and then we'll move on to a lighting setup that costs a few $100s, and then finally to a lighting setup that costs around $1,000. And we're gonna analyze the differences between each one, and you'll see how you can use lights to create different effects in your YouTube videos to make your videos as high quality as possible so that they really stand out from the other videos here on YouTube, and you can get more views on your videos and grow your channel even faster. So here we have the first lighting setup, the one that is the easiest, the simplest, and the most affordable. In fact, this lighting setup can cost you as little as nothing at all. Right now I'm standing just in front of a window and we have some nice diffused light coming into this window from an overcast day outside. So if you have a window you could use that isn't gonna have any harsh sunlight shining directly into it, then that is a great option and you can create some really nice light for your video just using that. Now, if you don't have a window though, you can use an artificial light. It can just be a little bit trickier, but to do this easiest lighting setup, you're just going to use a single light to illuminate your subject. And if you're talking to the camera, then your subject is yourself. You can use something like a ring light or a lamp with a shade to diffuse the light. But the main idea here is that you want to make sure your light is nice and diffused so you're not creating any harsh shadows on your face, because those don't tend to be very flattering. Now, if you want to take this simplest lighting setup up a notch, then you can go ahead and add a light into your background. This is called a practical light. We'll talk more about this with the more advanced setups, but there's no reason you can't go ahead and add this in even with a simple setup. It's going to add a lot of interest and dimension into the background. And another option for how you can do something similar is to position yourself so that you have a window in your background and then use some sort of artificial light to light yourself. And again, that just creates a lot of interest and dimension. You just have to be careful if you do that with your camera's exposure settings and make sure that you're exposing for your face so that your face is the right brightness, because you don't want to have a window in the background that's super bright and then have your face be dark. So now let's move on to the second lighting setup. So this one is just a little bit more complex. This is essentially the lighting setup that I normally use in my YouTube videos. And this is what is typically called a 3-point lighting system. So with the 3-point lighting system, you're going to have a key light, which is the light that is lighting your subject. And that light is typically going to be off at an angle to your subject to create some nice dimension with the angles on their face. And essentially we're trying to create some flattering shadows so that we can see the features of your subject's face, but not create any harsh shadows. And in my case, I'm using this ring light from Newer as my key light. I've been using this light for a few years. It works really well. It's nice because it is adjustable, so you can change the brightness, and also the color temperature is adjustable, so you can make it either warmer or cooler, and then you can match that color temperature with the settings in your camera to make sure that the whites in your shot truly look white and you have good skin tone and all of that. Now, this key light is complemented by what's called a fill light. Now, my fill light is actually the natural light just coming in from the bank of windows along this wall to my right, and they're filling in this side of my face so that this side of my face is not in shadow. Now, if you don't have windows that happen to be in the right spot, which of course most people aren't going to, then you'll want to add a second light that is creating that fill for the side of your face that isn't being illuminated by your key light. Now, as I mentioned, this is a 3-point lighting system, so you're going to have a third light, and there's actually 2 different lights that people use as this third light. Sometimes they have what's called a rim light, which is a light that's coming from the background, hitting the back of the subject. We'll talk a little bit more about that with the most advanced lighting setup, but the other light that you might have as your third light in your 3-point lighting system is some sort of light in the background. So my background is being illuminated right now by actually 2 different light sources, because I have the window light coming in on this side, and then I also have a lamp over here. Now, the way you light your background is really going to depend on the situation, but the main thing that you want to keep in mind is avoiding creating harsh shadows. So that might look like making sure that you're positioning your light so it's not shining directly on your background, also diffusing your light. So for example, as you can see here, my lamp is actually pointed away from the bookshelf so that the light isn't shining directly on it and creating a lot of shadow. So now we've come to the most complex and most expensive lighting setup, and there's a lot going on in this shot. Now I know that at first it might look simple, but let's break this down. So first of all, we have a key light that is shining on my face, and right now I'm using the newer CB100 Continuous LED Studio lighting kit as this light, which is a more robust and more powerful light, and a bit more versatile as well than the ring light that I often use in my video. Something that makes this light look a little bit better is that it has this nice big softbox on it, which diffuses the light more than my ring light is able to, just because my ring light is smaller. My second light source is my fill light, and for this I have a couple different things going on. First of all, of course, we've got that window light coming in from the side, but I also have the ring light set up, pushed back a bit and on a low setting to create a little bit more fill, especially because as it's getting a little bit later in the day, the light outside is fading. That window light is also lighting my background, but in addition, there's two more things going on that make this setup just a little bit more complex, a little bit more advanced. The first one is something you might not even have noticed, but there's a little bit of a color cast back there, and that's because I have an RGB light strip down the side of that bookcase, and I can use this remote to turn it on and off. So if you want to see what that looks like without it, you can see the wall just looks a lot flatter and kind of less interesting. And then when we turn it on, the wall suddenly has a bit more dimension and a bit more life to it. And I can also use this remote to change the color on it. So it was blue, now it's more of a purple color, more pink, or I could make it green, which pops, but maybe isn't quite the color I want. Anyway, so that's kind of fun and a way that you can bring a little bit more life and interest to your videos. And then finally, I've got a light over here that is shining on the back of my head. This is called a rim light or a hair light, and it helps to separate your subject, yourself, from your background, which can really help to set you and your videos apart from other videos on YouTube because it makes your videos look just that much more interesting. So as you can see, now the back of my head is not lit, and so I'm kind of blending in more with the background. With this particular lighting setup, you don't experience this quite as much because I've got so much light going on in my background, but especially if your background is more dim, you'll notice a really big difference with this. Thanks so much for joining me for this video today. I hope that you enjoyed it. And regardless of whether you're going to use the very most budget-friendly option or you are going to use this most expensive option, I hope that you learned some things about how you can use lights to different effects in your videos, and you can take those new techniques that you learned to mix and match to find the lighting setup that really works best for your space and for your budget and for the look that you're going for in your videos. If you watched this video today because you are working on growing your channel here on YouTube and you want to quickly grow your subscribers so you can turn your channel into a success, then be sure to check the description box below for a link to a free workshop that I created all about how to quickly get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers and get your channel monetized. And for new videos every week about how to grow your channel on YouTube, and if you're interested in starting your own online business, then be sure to subscribe to my channel because I make new videos here every week about those topics, and I would love to have you join me for the next one. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's video. My name is Gillian Perkins, and I'll be back next week with another video.